It's only quite recently that I realized that I was getting close to this milestone, and I had now somehow managed to produce 100 videos reviewing watches. If you're new here and just want to check out the fun Rolex on the thumbnail, you probably couldn't care less about that. But it's quite a personal achievement for me, since I can honestly say that it's not about quantity for me. This is a hobby that takes my mind off the responsibilities of everyday life, and it gets me out and about in nature. It indulges my macro photography decade-long hobby, and most of all, allows me to geek out over these little mechanical marvels that we call watches. And somehow I've done this 100 times now. So what better way to celebrate than by reviewing a watch that is called exactly that, the Rolex Celebration, or if you insist, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual reference 124300 with a turquoise blue dial with a celebration motif. And what a look at this watch is. Whether you hate it or love it, it will draw your eyes to it, and you will likely share your opinion with the wearer, either to their face or behind their back. Firstly, a massive thanks to my friend John for the loan. This is an extremely rare and hard to obtain watch, and every day it's spent at my house has had me stare sideways at anyone near my house, and my rather harmless Cocker Spaniel has been on high alert. John and his friend Pete runs a great podcast for watch fans called Hot Take Time. And if you're watching this right now, I'm pretty sure you'll like Pete and John geek out over details that normal people would not put up with for 5 seconds, let alone 1 hour. I'll link it up. So anyway, proving once again that Rolex do in fact have a sense of humor and are not at all run by uptight Swiss elitists holed up in an ivory tower, we get a dial that can be best described as playful. It's amusing to see that a brand that makes probably the best tool watches in the world release a watch that you'd honestly struggle to tell the time on. But unlike the usual quiet austere Explorers, Submariners or even the standard OPs, this is one that will turn heads and questions may be asked. And so long as none of those questions is "what time is it?" we're all good here. Joking aside, this should bring smiles all around, and how fun it actually is to see a luxury brand release something as joyful as a dial full of random bubbles, and in 31, 36 and 41 diameter sizes, so all humans are covered. We will definitely discuss why said joyful watch is once again driven to extinction and subject to scalpers that charge 5 times the retail price, but for now, let's put some smiles on our dials and take a closer look at the Rolex bubbles. So today I promise you some of the most up-close video you've ever seen of this model and a truly unbiased opinion. And if you stay till the end, like and subscribe and leave me a nice comment, I shall be forever grateful. So sizes, even on an investment piece such as this one, is of course important. So let's cover those first, and I will measure here myself and not read from the website. This is the 41 model, but no matter how many times I measure or at what angle, it is 39.5mm diameter. If you're curious, it's 41.9mm including the crown. Lug to lug is 47.3mm, and lug width is exactly 21mm. It's 11.6mm thick, and sized up for me is 134 gram. It's waterproof down to 100 meters for peace of mind. Now, we talked about this dial a few times now, so let's get stuck into it. You are ready for your close-up, my little bubbly friend. As we do, a word of caution. Steel hands and indices do have tiny particles that reflect light, so it's not always dust you see on my close-ups. I often see comments about this. Also, what can happen is minute dust on a crystal that reflects onto the mirror polished hands and indices, despite my best dust blowing and polishing efforts. But that said, there are a couple of interesting findings here for a watch that's priced at retail of 9,500 Australian dollars and selling second hand for close to 50,000 Australian dollars. But my findings may not be what you expect. The 12 o'clock has the classic logo, which is absolute perfection, not a single blemish. The print underneath, again, perfection. This is also by far the cleanest hands and indices I've seen, on the 8 or so Rolex watches I've filmed for my own and other channels. There are one or two ever so slight rough surfaces on an edge or two, but honestly, they are very, very high quality. It's some of these bubbles that deserve some close attention. At a very specific angle on a couple of them, you can make out a tiny little vertical light scratch, but they are so small and so insignificant that it's been impossible to film. Similarly, some of these bubbles do have some rough edges, but again, you'd have to be nitpicky to the extreme and bring out the extra sadistic macro to see this. And it's almost endearing to see that precise laser cut bubbles with no blemishes at all is not what we see here, and trust me, you would never see this unless you bring out the loupe. Overall, my findings is that this is the highest quality and most consistent Rolex dial indices and hands that I've filmed to date. Not that the others have been bad by any means, but there's always been one or two things that I've had to point out. Do I think that Grand Seiko would have been happy with those bubble edges? No, I do not. But what do you think? The case is classic Rolex, as in the incredible 904L stainless steel that somehow feels like velvet and cold hard steel at the same time. I'll be honest and say that the Oyster Perpetual is my favorite Rolex watch. I know it's entry level and all that, but these broad shoulders and the classic design is just so nice in my opinion. We get a screw-in sign crown that's rather small at just under 5.8mm and a polished fixed bezel that will stay polished for 27 seconds in the real world. And this brings me to my pet hate with Rolex. Take my recent Trusca watch review. The hardening process is so good that no scratches and blemishes appear without some serious knocking around. I think part of the reason people do not wear their fancy Rolex watches is that they pick up scratches so quickly and then lose value on the second-hand market compared to a perfect unworn watch. Especially with something like this one, it's literally quadrupled in value, so you almost feel like you're burning money just wearing it. And borrowing it for filming a review has certainly had an effect on my blood pressure. So please, can more of you Rolex owners buy and wear it as the end user and just deal with the normal wear and tear? And hey Rolex, why don't you consider a hardening process already? It'll mean we see more of your watches in the wild. I'm sure it's hard, but find a way. You have all of the money. The back of the watch is classic Rolex. It's there to be engraved basically. Behind that is the 3230 Rolex movement with a 70-hour power reserve and a ±2 seconds a day tolerance. If you care about such things, watchmakers and service professionals seem to swear by the design of the Rolex movements, and the 10-year service interval alone tells the story. On the flip side of storytelling, if you're keen to wrap up an especially boring meeting, tell everyone about your watch's paramagnetic blue parachrome hairspring and high-performance paraflexed shock absorbers. That'll do the trick. I've covered Rolex bracelets before, they are the best in the business. The 3-piece solid link Oyster bracelet is soft yet strong, beautiful and muscular. This one tapers down to 15.5mm from 21, and we get a signed folding Oyster clasp with the Easy Link 5mm extension for hot days. It works well with no fuss. The Lume is always good on Rolex watches, and ironically, easier to tell the time in the dark here on this one. The Chroma-Light Lume is Rolex proprietary and has a long-lasting blue lume. The Rolex Celebration is a fun watch, and Rolex makes amazing watches with awesome movements. And it's an extremely strong brand with so much heritage. Everyone knows the brand, and everyone would have an opinion about the brand. What normal people don't realize is that wandering into a Rolex store to buy the watch is a fool's errand. The landing page for this model has, without a hint of sarcasm, a link down the bottom that says, "Contact an official Rolex retailer to help you make the choice that will last a lifetime." I get it. Enzo Ferrari famously said that Ferrari will always make one less Ferrari than what the market wants. But it seems Rolex will always make 50% less watches than what the market wants, and then leave it up to scalpers and grey market to profit in the extreme. And that is just unacceptable, to be honest, for a big wealthy brand. I mean, it's not like the retail costs are low in the first place. So go on, make one less like Ferrari and get a sanctioned company waitlist to fix this already. Now that said, this Bubbl Rolex is super fun. Its whimsical approach is very un-Swiss and something different to the usual Space Mountain Divers approach and adds. Dare I say it, it's way more microbrand fun than Big Bad Juggernaut. And that, my friends, is why we buy, support, wear and love our microbrands, friends. Thank you again for your support on my channel to date, and thank you again for watching today.